Another reflection on what we can learn from the 1921 Lowestoft revival that then spread to East Anglia and other parts of the UK is the spontaneous and organic nature of it. Yes, it began with an invitation to Douglas Brown. There was some degree of organisation in that. Hugh Ferguson from Christchurch in Lowestoft invited Douglas Brown to come and do a mission. But from there, it really was almost like you could see God orchestrating things that had never been planned. And reflecting on the revival a year or two after, those involved said that when it started to become organised by a committee in terms of mapping out all the different visits that should be done, that was when the revival actually started to wane in its power. But what happened in the early days was as Douglas Brown arrived, then you also found people getting connected. So Jock Troop, Scottish fisherman, converted, came to Great Yarmouth to do with the fishing industry, the herring industry, began to preach very powerfully in Great Yarmouth, saw remarkable outbreaks of revival there, and Jock Troop, Douglas Brown, plus lots of other leaders of many different denominations in Lowestoft and Great Yarmouth began to work together. There was pulpit exchanges, there were shared pulpits, there was a focus on Christ and the cross and the gospel that overshadowed secondary churchmanship issues and doctrinal issues. And then we found that as across East Anglia, as it began to break out, you found in Cambridge, for example, Douglas Brown and Gypsy Smith began to work together, and there was again great impact there. Same thing happening with other church leaders in Ipswich, Norwich, and around the place. So there seemed to be what I would call a relationship cementing that came from heaven, and many of the accounts of the meetings were these dear men sharing the pulpit together with tears coming down their eyes, just holding hands under the sense of the presence of God. Such a beautiful sign of unity born of the Spirit, not a committee, but a unity of the Spirit. So I think there's something for us to learn there, that God does connect leaders at heart level, and it's quite possible for people who build slightly differently with different ecclesiology to find a great unity for mission and for the gospel together as what becomes of first importance, as Paul says in 1 Corinthians 15, 3 and 4, first importance, Christ died for our sins, was buried, was raised from the dead. This is the first importance. And I think when the agenda was around that and a real sense of need, the prayer meetings were extraordinary, people praying together for God to move. I think there's something about an organic move of God that seemed to happen in these situations. And then Jock Troop connected with W.P. Nicholson in Ulster, invited him to the Glasgow Tent Hall. Jock Troop became superintendent of the Glasgow Tent Hall, a famous sort of big arena that was used for mission. And so relationship again was the decisive factor rather than the geography. I think that's the thing we really need to learn. God does not move according to geography. He will move according to relationship. Lowestoft is way out on the east coast, an insignificant place, as it were, strategically, one would think, as was the northeast of Scotland. But yet it was where God cemented relationships that then began to have a huge effect. As it was said of Jesus, can anything good come out of Nazareth? And often we can make mistakes thinking, where should we strategically go? Where should we make the strategic impact? No, it's not wrong to think in planning terms. Paul had plans with his missionary journeys and strategic thoughts. But we must have the sort of heart that even Philip had, where the Spirit said to him, go stand next to that chariot. There's this spontaneous, Peter, go to Cornelius' house. There seems to be a spontaneity of the Spirit that overrides any human wisdom that might come in our planning. And that's what we, I think, can learn from the 1921 revival.